Welcome to Heartfelt Stories. You know that feeling when you step off a 10-hour flight, your back is aching, your eyes are burning, and all you want, the only thing you want, is for someone to say welcome home? Yeah, I didn't get that. What I got was a piece of paper and a zipped-up coat. My name is Maya. I'm 27 years old. And what I'm about to tell you is the story of how I spent 6 years being my family's personal bank, their babysitter, their safety net, their everything, while they spent 6 years pretending I barely existed. Before I go any further, if this story is already pulling at something inside you, please subscribe and like this video and listen to my story till the end. And let me know which city you're listening from. That way I can see how far my story has traveled. Because something tells me this isn't just my story. Something tells me you might know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, let me take you back. 3 weeks before Christmas. I'm sitting cross-legged on my bed in my Portland apartment, laptop balanced on a pillow, finishing a code review that was already 3 days late. My phone buzzes once, then twice, then it lights up with my mother's name and just doesn't stop. I pick up. The sobbing starts before I can even say hello. Maya, honey, I need you to come home for the holidays. Her voice breaks in that specific place it always breaks. This might be the last time I have all my children under one roof. Your father would have wanted this. My father. She always knew exactly which wound to press. He'd been gone 8 years, and she still summoned him like a debt collector whenever she needed leverage. I told her I wasn't sure. Flights were expensive this close to Christmas. I just sent her the monthly transfer 5 days ago. My bank account was running on fumes and stubbornness. She didn't pause. I already told Aunt Carol you're coming. Don't make me look like a liar in front of the whole family. And just like that I folded. I booked the flight that same night. $1,200. Economy. 10 hours with a layover. I sat staring at the confirmation email thinking this is fine. This is what good daughters do. I should have known better. Because the last time my mother cried on the phone like that, it cost me $11,000. But I'll get to that. 3 weeks later, I'm dragging my suitcase through 6 inches of slush up my mother's driveway in Richmond, Virginia. My back is aching from the flight. My fingers are numb. The porch light is on, and through the frosted glass I can see shapes moving inside. I knock. My mother opens the door. And the first thing I notice is her coat. Not a bathrobe. Not an apron. A coat. Zipped up. Keys already in her hand. She doesn't hug me. She doesn't even look at my face. She holds out a folded piece of paper. Here's the schedule. Emma is allergic to strawberries. The baby's reflux medicine is in the cabinet above the stove. Pediatrician's number is on the fridge. She checks her watch. We need to leave in 20 minutes to make our dinner reservation. That's when my brother Ryan appeared from the hallway. Resort polo. Sunglasses pushed up on his forehead. In December. He had that grin. The one he'd worn since we were kids. The one that meant he was about to say something at my expense and the whole room would laugh. Don't wipe your snot on Auntie Maya, kids. And sure enough, everyone laughed. 3 children came stampeding around the corner. Emma, 5 years old, grabbing my leg. The middle one, 3, running straight past me like I was furniture. And the baby, 18 months, howling in my sister-in-law Sandra's arms. Sandra walked past me without making eye contact. Formulas on the counter. She wakes up at 2. And then they were gone. Coats. Slamming doors. The SUV backing out of the garage. I stood in the middle of the living room holding a piece of paper with somebody else's children's bedtimes on it. My suitcase still zipped at my feet. And then I noticed something on the kitchen counter. A resort brochure. Picked it up. Flipped it open. 5-day booking. Stamped 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. A week before my mother ever called me crying. The tears were a script. And I was the punchline. The baby woke up at exactly 2 in the morning, just like Sandra promised. The only thing Sandra ever got right. I lifted her from the portable crib and walked slow circles through the dark living room, patting her back, humming some half-remembered song my father used to sing. The house was quiet except for her little whimpers and the hum of the refrigerator. The refrigerator. I stopped in front of it. Under the magnets and the takeout menus were photographs. Ryan's college graduation. Ryan's wedding. The whole family at the beach last 4th of July. My mother. Aunt Carol. Sandra. The kids. I was not in a single one. I stood there for a long time bouncing that baby, scanning every photo, just in case I'd missed myself. I hadn't. My phone buzzed. A banking notification. Charge $4,800. Coastal Palms Resort and Spa. My mother's credit card. The card I paid the monthly statement on. The card she just used to book a resort vacation I wasn't invited to. Something cold slid through my chest. Not sadness. Something sharper. I sat down on the couch with the baby warm and asleep on my shoulder, opened my banking app and started scrolling. Rent transfer. Car insurance. Credit card statement. Month after month after month. 6 years of transactions. I had never sat down and added them all up before. I think part of me had been afraid to. That night I didn't sleep, because I opened a spreadsheet, and I started counting. Before I continue, I need to ask you something. Have you ever been the one who just keeps giving? The one people call because they know you'll say yes? Drop a simple yes in the comments if this is already hitting close to home. And keep listening, because what I found in that spreadsheet changed absolutely everything. Now, to understand what happened next, you have to understand how I got here. And that means going all the way back to the day my father died. I was 21. Just graduated. No job yet. Just a degree, a little bit of hope, and a plan to move out west and start fresh. My father, Robert Calloway, a quiet man who fixed lawnmowers in the garage and called me kiddo until the very last day of his life, had a heart attack on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday he was gone. At the funeral it rained so hard you could barely hear the pastor. Ryan stood next to Sandra, who was 6 months pregnant. Everyone cried. But I remember watching my mother's face. And I remember seeing something underneath the grief. Something I didn't have a name for back then. She pulled me aside at the reception. Maya, you're the strong one. Ryan has a family to worry about. I only have you now. I was 21 years old. I didn't know that sentence was a leash. I got my first job 2 months later. Entry level. The paycheck barely covered my rent and groceries. The very first month my mother called. I can't make rent this month, baby. Just this once. I sent her $1,400. And then I sent it again the next month. And the next. And the next. For 6 years. Not once, not a single time in 72 months, did my mother ask Ryan for anything. Not when he bought a brand new truck 6 months after the funeral. Not when he and Sandra took a cruise for their anniversary. Not when he upgraded to a 70-inch flat screen. Funny how strong always ends up meaning the one who pays. Last Christmas was supposed to be different. I told myself that on the plane. I even believed it. I bought real gifts for everyone. A cashmere scarf for my mother. Hand-painted wooden building blocks for the kids, $60 for those. A nice bottle of bourbon for Ryan because I was still trying. I was always trying. The gift I received was a bath towel wrapped in newspaper. Not even proper wrapping paper. A grocery store circular. I could still see the coupon for discounted chicken thighs peeking out from the fold. I grabbed it last minute, my mother said cheerfully. You're just so hard to shop for. I smiled. Of course I smiled. The day after Christmas, my mother announced a family ski trip. I actually felt a little flicker of excitement, which should tell you everything about how low my bar had gotten. I woke up early, put on the warmest thing I owned, and came downstairs ready to go. Ryan was tying his boots in the hallway. He looked up at me. Someone's got to stay with the kids, Maya. You don't even ski. My mother appeared behind him. He's right, honey. Just makes sense. So I stayed. 3 kids. A cold house. A window with a perfect view of the driveway. I watched them pile into the car, laughing, zipping jackets, passing around a thermos of hot chocolate. Sandra turned and gave me a little wave through the glass. The kind you give a hotel clerk. When they came home that night, smelling like pine and cold air, not one single person asked how my day went. Ryan just looked around the living room and said, "House is still standing. Good job." That was it. And the next time was worse. 8 months before this holiday trip, my mother called at midnight. Not her usual guilt hour. This felt like genuine panic. Maya, the pipes burst. There's water everywhere. The kitchen floor is completely ruined. I don't know what to do. I could hear something dripping in the background. I transferred $11,000 the next morning. Nearly everything in my emergency fund. I ate rice and canned beans for 3 weeks. I told myself it was worth it. 2 weeks later, Ryan posted photos online. A birthday party at my mother's house. And there, gleaming behind the birthday cake and the smiling guests, was a brand new kitchen. Granite island. Pendant lights. Subway tile backsplash. The caption read, "Mom outdid herself this year." I stared at that photo for 10 full minutes. Then I texted her. "Mom, I thought the pipes burst?" She replied fast. Like she'd been expecting the question. They did. But since we were fixing things anyway, I upgraded the kitchen a little. The family needs a nice kitchen, Maya. I later found the actual plumbing invoice stuffed in a drawer. $612 to fix the pipe. The remaining $10,388 went to a kitchen remodel I was never consulted about, never invited to enjoy, and never thanked for. The family needs a nice kitchen. She kept using that word. Family. I deleted the text thread. I didn't say a word. And then 3 months before I flew home for these holidays, something happened that broke something open inside me. My sister-in-law Sandra sent me a screenshot by accident. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was on my lunch break when the notification popped up. A screenshot of a group chat. One I'd never seen before. It was called Callaway Family. For members. My mother. Ryan. Sandra. Aunt Carol. I was not in it. My mother had written, "Maya is so dramatic. I ask for one small favor and she acts like I'm ruining her life." Below that, Ryan. "She just likes feeling important. Let her." Then Sandra. A laughing emoji. Then Aunt Carol. Another laughing emoji. I read it 4 times. Then I put my phone face down on my desk and I stared at the wall. One small favor. That's what my mother called it. One small favor. $1,400 a month. $11,000 for a kitchen remodel. Car insurance for a brother who wouldn't hand me a cup of coffee without making it a joke. One small favor. And I was paying for the phone she used to laugh about me behind my back. I saved that screenshot. Put it in a folder. I didn't know why at the time. Felt like instinct. Like pocketing a receipt you might need later. Turns out my gut was already building a case. The baby was asleep on the couch, tucked between 2 throw pillows. Emma and the middle one were in Ryan's old bedroom. The house was completely quiet. The glow from my laptop was the only light in the room. I'd been at it for 3 hours. Transaction by transaction. Month by month. Going all the way back to the very first $1,400 I ever sent 6 years ago. And when the spreadsheet was done, I just sat there. Rent. $1,400 a month. 72 months. $100,800. Car insurance for Ryan. $200 a month. 72 months. $14,400. Credit card statements. $16,800 across 6 years. Kitchen renovation. $11,000. And the resort charge I'd seen on my phone just hours ago. $4,800. I added it all up. The total at the bottom of the screen sat there in bold. $143,000. I had paid $143,000 to a family that doesn't put my photo on the refrigerator. I looked at the number. Then at the sleeping baby. Then at the dark driveway outside. Somewhere at a beach resort, my family was eating shrimp cocktail on a bill that would end up on a card that I would pay. And here I sat in a dark living room with a spreadsheet that told me exactly how invisible I'd been, and exactly how expensive that invisibility cost me. I picked up my phone and called Nadia, my best friend since college, the only person who had ever looked me in the eye and asked, "Maya, how much are you actually sending them?" She called back in 7 minutes. And the first thing she said, before even hello, was something I had needed to hear for 6 years. "Maya, you gave them a house." She looked at the spreadsheet I'd screen shared on FaceTime. For about 30 seconds she didn't say anything at all. I could see her eyes moving across the numbers line by line. The way she reads everything. Like a woman who counts things for a living, which she does. Nadia is an accountant. A very good one. "You gave them a down payment on a house," she said finally. "And they didn't even give you a seat at the table." I tried to laugh. Came out wrong. She calls it helping out. Helping out is bringing groceries. Helping out is watching the kids on a Saturday. This, she pointed at the screen, this is subsidizing their entire lifestyle. Then she said the thing that scared me most. "Maya, are you a co-signer on anything?" A pause. The lease. Mom asked me to co-sign when she moved after Dad died. She said it was just a formality. Nadia went quiet. That particular quiet she gets when she's angry, but choosing her words very carefully. If she misses a payment, it hits your credit. You know that, right? I hadn't known that. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. We're going through everything tonight, Nadia said. All of it. I need you to stay with me right here because what Nadia and I found when we pulled my credit report that night. It was so much worse than I ever imagined. Have you ever found out that someone you trusted had been using your name without asking? Drop a broken heart in the comments. I want to know I'm not alone in this. Keep listening. It was 3 in the morning when I pulled my full credit report. Nadia stayed on the phone the entire time, guiding me through each screen, while I sat on the cold bathroom floor with my back against the tub. 2 credit cards I recognized. A joint checking account I'd opened years ago and completely forgotten about. The co-signed lease. And then, a 3rd credit card. Opened 14 months ago. Authorized user, Patricia Calloway. My mother. I stared at the screen. Nadia. I didn't open this. I know you didn't. I never signed anything. I never authorized her to be on this card. Nadia's voice was careful, like someone handling broken glass. Maya, adding an authorized user and running up a balance without consent, that's not just careless. That could be considered fraud. Even between family members. She's my mother. And she opened a credit line in your name without asking you. Both of those things can be true at the same time. I pulled up the statements. A department store. A day spa, $340 for a single visit. Groceries but not budget groceries. Organic cuts of meat. Imported cheese. 14 months of spending on a card I didn't know existed. Under my name. Affecting my credit score. I set the phone down on the tile floor. I sat there in that bathroom in my mother's house, with the fan humming above me and the faucet dripping. And for the first time in 6 years I didn't cry. I just saw everything clearly. Like someone had finally turned on the lights in a room I'd been stumbling through in the dark for years. I didn't feel sad anymore. I felt clarity. And clarity, it turns out, is dangerous for the people who depend on your confusion. The next afternoon my phone rang. Mom. I could hear waves and laughter and steel drum music before she even finished saying hello. How are the kids? Not how are you? Not did you sleep? Just how are the kids? They're fine, Mom. Oh good. Listen, honey. Ryan forgot to pack the kids' rain boots. Can you run to the store and grab some? Just use my card. A pause. Actually no. Just use yours. I'll pay you back. She would not pay me back. She had never once in 6 years paid me back for anything. Ryan's voice floated in from somewhere behind her, bright and casual. Tell her to get the good brand, not the cheap ones. I looked at my laptop still open on the kitchen counter. The spreadsheet glowing from across the room. $143,000, plus the $3,200 on the secret card, plus the $4,800 resort charge. The number was still growing. Even now. Even while I held the phone. Sure, Mom. I hung up. I didn't go to the store. I sat at that kitchen counter, in that $11,000 kitchen I had paid for without being consulted, and I made a decision. That was the last time the words sure, Mom meant what she thought they meant. The next time those words left my mouth, they would carry a very different weight. I called Nadia again that evening after the kids were in bed. This time I wasn't on the bathroom floor. I was sitting straight at the kitchen counter, laptop open, pen in hand. What do you want to do? She asked. I thought about it. Not the angry version. Not the tearful version. The clear version. I want to stop lying to myself that they're going to change. Nadia was quiet for a moment. Then, tell me what that looks like. So I told her. I laid it out like a project plan. Because that is what I do for a living. I build systems. And this was a system that needed to be shut down. Step 1. Cancel every automatic payment from my accounts. Rent, insurance, credit card statement. All of it. Step 2. Contact the landlord. Remove my name as cosigner on my mother's lease. Step 3. Call the credit card company. Report the unauthorized card. Freeze it. Step 4. Print the spreadsheet. Every line. Every dollar. Every month. 12 pages. Nadia listened without interrupting. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. but in the best possible way. The way it drops right before you jump and you've already decided you're going to. Call the landlord before you tell them anything. Get it in motion before they can guilt you out of it. Once the paperwork is moving, it's done. They can cry all they want, but the clock is already ticking. She was right. If I told them first, my mother would cry. Ryan would yell. And I would fold. I always folded. Not this time. I made the calls the next morning while the kids watched cartoons in the living room. One by one, volume turned up just enough to cover my voice from the kitchen. The landlord, a polite man with a flat voice, told me my mother would have 30 days to secure a new cosigner, or the lease would transition to a month-to-month arrangement pending credit review. 30 days. The clock was set. My bank confirmed the cancellation of every recurring transfer. Each one. Reference numbers written down on a notepad. The credit card company froze the unauthorized card immediately. I sat at that kitchen counter after I hung up from the last call. 12 printed pages sat in a manila folder beside me. Everything highlighted in yellow. The autopays were dead. The landlord had been notified. The card was frozen. The dominoes were lined up. All I had to do now was wait for them to walk back through that front door. Tanned, rested, carrying resort gift bags, completely unaware that the ground beneath them had already shifted. That last night, Emma crawled into my lap on the couch. Astronaut pajamas. She smelled like baby shampoo and graham crackers. She pressed her little face into my shoulder. "Auntie, why don't you come on trips with us?" "I have to work, sweetie." She pulled back and looked at me the way 5-year-olds look at you when they're about to repeat something an adult said. "Daddy says you don't do anything important." The room tilted. Just for a second. I hugged her tighter and didn't answer. I tucked her into bed, kissed her forehead and walked back to the kitchen. And then, for the first time since everything started, I almost quit. I picked up my phone and called Nadia. It was past midnight in Seattle, but she answered on the second ring. And I was crying. Really crying. The ugly kind. The kind I hadn't let myself do in years. "What if I'm wrong?" I whispered. "What if this destroys everything?" Nadia didn't hesitate for even a single second. "Maya, you paid $143,000. They called you dramatic in a group chat you weren't in. Your mother opened a credit card in your name. This isn't love. This is a system. And you are the engine they refused to maintain." I pressed the heel of my hand against my eyes. "Breathe. I'm not doing this to hurt them. I know. You're doing this so you can stop hurting." I hung up, wiped my face, looked at Emma's door, closed and quiet. And then I heard it. Tires on gravel. Their car pulling into the driveway. And I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. They poured through the front door like a parade float nobody asked for. Suitcases rolling, skin sun-kissed, voices loud. My mother was wearing brand new sunglasses. Ryan had a resort gift shop bag dangling from one hand. Nobody said thank you. Nobody asked how the 5 days went. My mother walked past me and scanned the kitchen. "The house looks clean." Then, to nobody in particular, "Did anyone bring the leftovers from the resort?" Sandra scooped up the baby and looked her over like a mechanic checking an engine. "Did she eat enough?" "She looks thinner." "She ate everything on the schedule you left," I said. Sandra didn't respond. Just walked off toward the nursery. Ryan tossed his keys onto the counter. "House is still standing." "Not bad, sis." Same line as last year. Same grin. Then my mother turned to me with the casual authority of someone giving a hotel concierge one last instruction. "Oh, Maya, before I forget, can you run and pick up Ryan's dry cleaning? He has a thing tonight." I looked at her. Really looked. No. The word sat in the room like a rock through glass. My mother blinked. Ryan stopped mid-step. "What?" I said no. "But I do need to talk to everyone tonight. After dinner." 3 seconds of silence. 3 full seconds. I counted every one. "About what?" Ryan asked. "About money." My mother's face flickered. Something fast behind the eyes. Then she smiled. That tight smile she uses when she's already rewriting the narrative in her head. Someone's being dramatic again. "Fine. We'll talk after dinner." She had no idea what was coming. Not one of them did. "I need you to stay right here with me. Because what happened at that dinner table, and what I said in that living room that night, is something I practiced in my head 100 times. And still, when the moment came, it took everything I had. If you've ever had to sit across a table from people who don't see what they're doing to you and speak your truth out loud, please hit that like button. This one is for you. Keep listening. Dinner was my mother's pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, a pie from the bakery she always swore she baked herself. She made it in the new kitchen. My kitchen. The $11,000 one. The whole meal was about the resort. My mother told a story about a waiter who nearly spilled a drink near their table. Ryan showed photos on his phone. The pool. The sunset. A plate of crab legs. Sandra turned the screen toward me. Look at this one. The kids would have loved it. The kids who were here with me. I said nothing. I ate my food. I waited. My mother noticed. She always noticed when the room wasn't organized the way she wanted it. Honey, you seem tense. Is everything okay at work? The redirect. If Maya's upset, it must be about Maya. Could never be about them. Work is fine, Mom. I just have some numbers I'd like to share after we clean up. Ryan snorted. Numbers? What is this, a board meeting? My mother laughed. Sandra half smiled. Something like that, I said. I did not smile. I set my fork down. The small clink of metal against ceramic was somehow the loudest thing in the room. And in those 2 seconds something shifted. I watched it cross their faces. Ryan's grin dropping half a degree. My mother's hands going still over her plate. Sandra glancing at Ryan the way people glance at each other when the script goes off book. I waited until the dishes were done. Until the kids were in bed. Until there was nowhere to run and nothing left to hide behind. Then I opened my laptop. My mother, not a stupid woman, had clearly made a phone call while I was putting the kids to sleep. Because 20 minutes later the doorbell rang. Aunt Carol, my father's younger sister, stood on the porch in her reading glasses and a heavy cardigan. She hugged my mother first. Then she turned to me with that look. Half pity, half suspicion. Claire, your mother told me you're upset about something. Whatever it is, let's just talk it out like family. My mother appeared behind her shoulder, dabbing her eye with a tissue. See, even Aunt Carol is worried about you, honey. She'd called reinforcements. Stacked the room before I could speak. Made sure the jury was seated before the defendant entered. Ryan on the couch. Arms crossed. Sandra beside him, phone in hand. And now Aunt Carol, freshly primed with my mother's version of events, settling into the armchair like a judge taking the bench. For against one. Just the way my mother always liked it. I looked at Aunt Carol and smiled. Tired one. That's exactly what I planned to do, Aunt Carol. Talk it out like family. Then I opened the laptop. The living room arranged itself like a courtroom nobody had planned. My mother in the center of the couch, hands folded in her lap, the posture of someone who wants to look reasonable. Ryan to her left, jaw tight. Sandra to the right. Aunt Carol in the wingback chair, watching me over her reading glasses. I stood. Laptop open on the coffee table. Manila folder beside it. Maya, my mother said. Smooth on top, impatient underneath. What's this big emergency? Can we speed this up? Ryan said. I've got an early morning. I didn't look at Ryan. I looked at the screen. Then I looked at each of them one at a time, the way my father used to look at me when he was about to say something that mattered. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be factual. And when I'm done, I'm going to leave. You can react however you want. But you will not change my mind. 5 seconds of silence. My mother looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at Sandra. Sandra picked up her phone and set it back down. Aunt Carol leaned forward 1 inch. The wall clock ticked. The refrigerator hummed. The new refrigerator. In the $11,000 kitchen. Paid for by the person standing in front of them. I turned the laptop so the screen faced the couch. Press 1 key. The spreadsheet filled the screen. Every line. Every month. Every dollar. Organized, sorted, totaled. The number at the bottom. Bold and red and underlined. $146,200. I read it line by line. I didn't rush. I didn't whisper. I spoke the way I speak in a code review. Factual. Sequential. Documented. Rent. $1,400 a month. 72 months. That's $100,800. My mother's mouth opened slightly. No sound came out. Car insurance for Ryan. $200 a month. 72 months. $14,400. Ryan shifted on the couch. Credit card statements for the card linked to your account, Mom. Over 6 years. $16,800. I kept going. Kitchen renovation. The one you told me was a pipe emergency. $11,000. The plumber's invoice was $612. The rest went to granite countertops and pendant lights. My mother looked down at her hands. And the resort you just came back from. $4,800. Charged to the card I pay the statement on. The card you didn't mention you were using for a vacation I wasn't invited to. I stood straight. Total. $146,200. Silence. 8 seconds of it. I counted because the clock was still ticking. Ryan was the first to speak. Where are you getting these numbers? Your bank statements, or rather my bank statements. Every single one of these came from my accounts. I opened the folder and placed the printed pages on the coffee table, one at a time. 12 pages. Each one highlighted in yellow. They landed with the softest sound, paper on wood. But in that room, in that silence, each one felt like a door closing. $146,000. That's what helping out looks like when you finally add it all up. I paused. But that's not all. 14 months ago, someone opened a credit card in my name. I watched my mother's eyes flick up from the printed pages. Something new behind them. Not guilt. Fear. I was listed as the primary account holder. An authorized user was added. Patricia Calloway. I looked directly at her. I did not sign anything. I did not agree to it. The balance on that card is $3,200. Patricia's hand went to her throat. That was just for emergencies, Maya. I pulled the statements from the folder. Nordstrom. $218. Espade. $340. Groceries, but not budget groceries. Organic steaks. Imported cheese. I paused. That's not an emergency. That's a lifestyle. On my credit. Aunt Carol turned to my mother. The pity on her face was completely gone. Patty, is this true? You opened a card in her name? It's not what it looks like. And one more thing. I picked up my phone. Opened the screenshot folder. Held the screen so the whole room could see it. The group chat. Calloway family. For members. Not 5. I read it out loud. My voice flat and steady. Maya's so dramatic. I ask for one small favor and she acts like I'm ruining her life. I looked at my mother. That was you. I scrolled. She just likes feeling important. Let her. I looked at Ryan. Ryan's face went red from the neck up like paint being poured. Sandra stared at the floor as if the carpet held a trap door she could disappear into. Aunt Carol pulled her reading glasses off slowly, like a woman who had just realized she'd been reading the wrong page of a very long book. Patty, she said quietly, you opened a credit card in her name. And then my mother started crying. Not the soft kind, the loud kind, the performance kind, the version that had worked every single time before. The one that made everyone in the room rush to her side and forget whatever they had been upset about. I can't believe my own daughter is doing this to me, she said, her voice breaking in all the rehearsed places. After everything I sacrificed raising you two alone, your father would be devastated. There it was. The dead card. She played it the way she always played it, like an ace she'd been keeping up her sleeve for exactly this kind of emergency. Ryan stood up. You're seriously doing this during the holidays? What is wrong with you? You want a medal for helping your own family? Megan murmured from the couch, this is so uncomfortable, and then went silent. My mother turned to Aunt Carol, eyes streaming, chin trembling. Ruth, tell her. Tell her she's being ungrateful. But Aunt Carol didn't tell me anything. She was looking at the spreadsheet, tracing the highlighted lines with one finger. Her lips were moving, doing the math. Then she looked up. Not at me. To my mother. Patty. Her voice was careful but solid. The voice of a woman who just added it all up and didn't like what she'd found. $146,000 is not helping out. And the credit card. Not you too, my mother whispered. The tears were still coming. But something behind them had shifted. She wasn't sad. She was losing. I stood completely still. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I let the numbers sit on that table and the words hang in that air. And I let the truth do what the truth does when you finally stop apologizing for it. I'm not asking for anything back, I said. I'm not suing anyone. I'm not here to punish you. I'm just telling you what has already happened. Ryan sat back down slowly. As of yesterday, every automatic payment from my accounts to yours has been canceled. Rent canceled. Car insurance canceled. Credit card statement canceled. All of it. Effective immediately. My mother's face went white. Not pale. White. I have notified your landlord that I am removing my name as co-signer on the lease. You have 30 days to find a new co-signer, or the lease transitions to a month-to-month arrangement pending credit review. Ryan leaned forward. You can't do that. I already did, Ryan. 2 days ago. And the credit card that was opened in my name without my consent. I looked at my mother. Frozen. The balance is under dispute. And then the room stopped. I don't mean it went quiet. I mean it stopped. The way a clock stops. The way a heart skips. The way a film freezes on the one shot that changes everything. 10 seconds. Nobody breathed. Nobody moved. Aunt Carol's hand went to her chest. Sandra's phone slipped from the armrest and hit the carpet. And my mother, the woman who had spent my entire adult life writing the story of this family in her own handwriting, whispered 3 words. No. No way. I didn't blink. I'm not punishing you. I'm just not paying for you anymore. Ryan pulled out his phone like a man grabbing a life raft. He opened his insurance app, tapped twice, and his face changed completely. My insurance says lapsed. He looked up. What did you do? I stopped paying for it. That's what I did. Your car insurance has been in my name, billed to my card for 6 years. I canceled the autopay. Sandra grabbed his arm. Ryan, the pediatrician is Tuesday. We cannot drive the kids without insurance. We cannot. Shut up, Sandra. He turned back to me. His voice low and tight. Turn it back on, Maya. No. Turn it back on. No. You turn it on. In your name. With your money. The way every other 31-year-old man with 3 children and a truck handles his own car insurance. He stood up. For one long moment I thought he might really yell. Not the performative kind. The real kind. But he didn't. He just stood there. His phone in one hand. His mouth opening and closing like a man trying to start a sentence that simply doesn't exist. This is insane, he finally said. You're insane. I'm 27 years old. I've been paying your car insurance since you were 25. That's $200 a month for 6 years. $14,400. And you never once asked where it came from. That was the line that landed. Not the number. The never once. I watched it hit him. His jaw clenched. His eyes dropped. And for the first time in my life, I watched my brother look at me and have absolutely nothing to say. Sandra was already on her phone, probably searching for insurance quotes. The first domino had fallen, but the biggest one was still standing. My mother's voice came out thin and stretched, like a wire pulled past its limit. Maya, if you take your name off the lease, I can't qualify on my own. My credit, it's not. I'll lose the house. I looked at her. At the woman who had fed me guilt for 6 years. Who had called me crying to get me on a plane. Who had handed me a babysitting schedule before she'd offered me a glass of water. It was never your house, Mom. It was mine. I just let you live in it. She turned to Aunt Carol. Carol, please. She's going to put me on the street. Talk to her. Aunt Carol had been very still since the spreadsheet. But now she spoke. Patty, I had no idea she was paying for all of this. You told me you were managing on your own. You told me Maya was just helping with groceries here and there. She paused. I was managing $146,000, Patty. That is not groceries. Another pause. Aunt Carol's chin lifted. Her eyes were wet but steady. If my brother were alive. The room waited. My brother would be ashamed of how you've treated his daughter. And my mother broke. Not the theatrical break. The real one. The sound that came out of her was small and raw, and it filled the room the way water fills a crack. She pressed both hands to her face and she wept. And nobody moved toward her. For the first time in my entire memory, not one person rushed to comfort Patricia Calloway. I need to stop here for just one breath. Because what I said next, what I picked up and walked out with, is something I want every single person who has ever been the invisible one in their family to hear. Don't move. We're almost at the end. And this ending matters. I'm not putting you on the street, Mom. I'm giving you 30 days to figure out your own life, the way I've been figuring out mine alone for 6 years. I closed the laptop. I picked up the manila folder. I stood up straight the way I should have stood years ago. I love this family. I do. But love is not a subscription you're owed on someone else's credit card. My mother was still crying. Ryan was against the wall, arms at his sides, staring at nothing. Sandra had her face in her hands. If any of you want a relationship with me, a real one, where I'm not the ATM or the babysitter or the punchline, you know my number. But the next time you call, it won't be to ask for money. I paused. It will be to ask how I'm doing. I reached for my suitcase. I had packed it that afternoon while they were unpacking theirs. I was halfway to the front door when I heard the footsteps. Small ones. Fast. Auntie, where are you going? Emma. Astronaut pajamas. Eyes wide. Barefoot on the cold hardwood. I set down my suitcase. I knelt in front of her. Tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I'm going home, sweetie. But I will always pick up the phone when you call. Always. I kissed her forehead. She held onto my sleeve for one small second. Then she let go. I stood up. I looked at my mother one last time. She was sitting on the couch, hands in her lap, staring at the stack of printed pages on the coffee table. She didn't say a word. For the first time in my entire life, Patricia Calloway had nothing to say. I opened the door. Cold air hit my face. Snow was falling, soft and quiet, the way snow falls when it doesn't know what just happened inside. I walked to the curb and called a car to the airport. I didn't look back. The cabin was dim. The engines hummed. The woman beside me was already asleep. My phone lit up with 14 messages. Mom. How could you do this to me? Ryan, you ruined Christmas. Sandra. The baby needs formula. Can you at least send money for that? And then, at the very bottom of the list, a different name. Aunt Carol Maya. I'm sorry. I should have seen it sooner. Call me when you're ready. I read each message exactly once. Then I muted every thread except Aunt Carol's. There was one more. From Nadia. Landing okay? I typed back, not yet. But I think I will be. I put my phone in airplane mode and sat in the dark for a long time. The flight attendant came by with a quiet cart. I ordered a ginger ale. $5. $5 for myself without checking my bank account first, without doing mental math about whose rent transfer was coming up, whose insurance payment was due. I took a sip. And I realized this was the first thing I had bought for myself in 6 years without calculating somebody else's bills first. It was just ginger ale. But it tasted like the beginning of something. 1 week later, back in Portland. Back at my desk. Back in my apartment that suddenly felt different. Not because anything in it had changed, but because everything outside it had. Aunt Carol called me on Wednesday. She didn't gossip. She reported, calm and factual, like someone who had decided to tell the truth from here forward. My mother had received the formal letter from the landlord. 30 days to find a new cosigner or the lease converts to month with a higher rent pending credit review. Patricia had been calling every relative she could reach, asking anyone to co-sign. Nobody would. Word had traveled. The number had traveled. $146,000 has a way of ending arguments before they even start. Ryan went 3 days without car insurance. He took rideshares to get the kids to the pediatrician. When he finally bought his own policy, the premium was higher than what I'd been paying because he had no independent history, no clean record in his own name. He was 31 years old buying car insurance for the very first time. Sandra called her own mother and went to stay there for a week. Stress, she said. The unauthorized credit card was frozen. The $3,200 balance was under dispute. My mother would have to answer for every single charge. No more spa days. No more department store runs. Not on my name. Not anymore. And me? I checked my bank account on Friday the way I always did. But the number at the bottom was different. For the first time in 6 years, I had $3,800 left at the end of the month. Not $200. Not $47. $3,800. That is what my life costs when I stop paying for theirs. 2 weeks later, my mother called on a Sunday afternoon. I stared at her name on the screen for 4 full rings. On the 5th, I picked up. Her voice was different. Softer. Maya, honey. I've been thinking. And maybe I wasn't always fair to you. I waited. I'd learned to wait. I'm sorry if you felt hurt. If 2 letters. If you felt hurt. Not sorry for what she did. Sorry that I had the audacity to feel something about it. But you have to understand, she continued, after your father died, I had no one. You were all I had. Mom, I wasn't all you had. You had Ryan. You had Aunt Carol. You had a job. You chose me. Not because I was the only option. Because I was the only one who wouldn't say no. A long pause. Then quieter. So does this mean you'll help with the lease? Just until I get back on my feet? There it was. Buried in the apology like a hook inside a worm. The whole call, the softened voice, the maybe I wasn't fair. All of it leading to one thing. No, Mom. That is exactly what this means. I won't do anymore. Silence. Then her voice dropped. Cold. Hard. Stripped of every pretense. You'll regret this. The line went dead. I set the phone down. Looked at the rain outside my window. I didn't cry. I didn't call Nadia. I didn't feel guilty. I just felt still. 2 months later. A Saturday morning in Portland. I woke up at 8, not to an alarm. Not to a phone call. Not to a message that said, can you send, or I need, or just this once. I woke up because the light came through my curtains and my body decided it was time. I made coffee. Good beans. The $12 bag I'd been eyeing for weeks and finally bought. Just because I could. I sat at my kitchen table and did something I had not done on a Saturday morning in 6 years. Nothing. No bank transfers. No guilt. No mental arithmetic about whose bills were due, or whether I'd have enough left for myself. My phone buzzed. FaceTime. Aunt Carol. I answered. She was in her living room reading, glasses on, a mug in her hand. She looked tired but clear. I talked to your mother, she said. I told her she needs help. Financial counseling at the very least. She's not happy with me right now either. I'm sorry, Aunt Carol. Don't be. I should have paid closer attention. I believed her when she said she was managing. She paused. Maya, your dad would be proud of you. My throat tightened. Not because you stopped giving, but because you finally valued yourself. I pressed my hand over my mouth. The tears came, but they were different this time. Not the burning kind. The kind that come when something very, very heavy finally lifts. Nadia was at the table across from me, mid-bite of a piece of toast. She caught my eye and grinned. Welcome to your life, Calloway. It's been waiting for you. I used to think being a good daughter meant saying yes to everything. That every no was a betrayal. That love came with a monthly payment. And that if I stopped sending it, I would stop mattering. I was wrong. My mother and I don't talk much now. She sends texts sometimes. Short ones. Usually about the weather or a recipe she saw on television. She hasn't asked for money. I don't know if that's growth or strategy. I hope it's growth. But I've stopped needing to know. Ryan hasn't called. Not once. I think about Emma sometimes. Her little astronaut pajamas. The way she held my sleeve and then let go. I send her birthday cards with bookstore gift cards inside. I don't know if she gets them. Sandra sent me one text, about a month after I left. The baby needs formula. Can you at least help with that? I sent back a phone number for assistance programs and a link to apply. She never wrote back. Aunt Carol calls every single Sunday without fail. We talk about my dad, about work, about her garden. She is the only bridge I have back to whatever is left of my family. And I've decided that one good bridge is enough. I'm not rich. I'm not winning. I still live in a 1-bedroom apartment. Some weeks I eat ramen. I still check my bank account too often because old habits don't die, they just learn to whisper. But for the first time in 6 years, my money is mine. My time is mine. My peace is mine. And if you are listening to this right now, and you recognize yourself somewhere in this story, if you are someone's ATM, someone's free babysitter, someone's plan B, someone's invisible engine, I want you to know something. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to count. You are allowed to leave. That is not selfishness. That is survival. Tell me in the comments. And if you've dealt with something similar, share your story. You are not alone. Subscribe for more stories about standing your ground and reclaiming your life. Love is not a subscription. And you are not a service they forgot to cancel. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. From wherever you are listening, I hope you feel a little less alone tonight. I really do.